Hello and welcome to another We Are Developers Live. It's Wednesday again, and I'm very happy that I'm here because 10 minutes ago I was still in a doctor's office waiting for my turn and then cycling back really fast to be here on time. So that was good. The weather is lovely, so it's all sunny. I might go to, there's a meetup later on, a developer meetup, DevRel meetup in Berlin in a pub. So I think I'm going to sacrifice myself and basically go to a pub and meet people and talk about DevRel. And I might be cycling there because it's actually so lovely weather. How you doing? How you doing, Dan, today?
I'm a little bit jealous, Chris, now I hear that. I mean, we were just talking before the show about how much we love developers, and yeah, I mean, meetups in pubs, it just gets better. So yeah, I'm quite jealous of you. Have a nice day today. We've got sun here though, which is good, and we've got a guest as well for today's show. So it's a pretty good start to a Wednesday, I'd say.
Yeah, we got somebody from Vienna and from Austria, and he's actually a person that works for Bitpanda. If you don't know what Bitpanda is, you probably haven't lived in the world that we live in for quite a while, but it's great to have him here. So Christian, why don't you come on stage and tell us a bit about yourself?
Yeah, hello. Thanks for having me. And yeah, thanks for the introduction of Bitpanda. Yeah, it's a big company by now, I would say, and with lots of customers. And it's really fun to build in that company.
So how many people buy pandas and bit ones as well? Like what's your business model?
Yeah, we have 7 million customers by now. Unfortunately, not too many people buy pandas. I mean, I guess there's a panda coin on it, but hopefully a lot more people buy Bitcoin and the real assets there. But yeah, we are a broker platform, so you can buy and sell digital assets on the platform. And we started only with Bitcoin like almost 11 years ago now. And at some point, we just said, wait a minute, each asset has a price. So why not sell all the other assets as well, basically, because the technical system is the same. And that's why we added more and more assets over the time. And now we have basically all the assets where you can think about, like real stocks, commodities, staking coins, whatever you want.
So you can mix and match basically. If you want to buy like shares, you can pay with Bitcoin through your platform rather than having to transfer it to a normal bank and then buy.
Yeah, exactly. One of our nice features is swapping, basically. So you can swap from one asset to another asset directly. And actually, when you swap from one crypto coin to another crypto coin, it's a non-tax event in Austria, which is also pretty nice for our customers.
Yeah, or for like avoiding tax and doing horrible things to the rest of the country, and like these kind of things. But yeah, it's.
I mean, you have to pay taxes once you go back to the old system, to your fiat currencies.
Yeah, I just bought a house, and the amount of like extra taxes that I have to pay for random things just fascinates me. Like you always have to put a 20% top on the price that you think you would be paying for. But yeah, it's just to be like as the owner of the place that the house is on. And like, yeah, but interestingly enough, in the contract, it said it forbid me to actually pay with Bitcoin. So it seems like there's markets out there that just don't trust it.
Okay,
Or
interesting.
I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, one of the problems, and it's a bigger problem by now, and it was not a problem like 10 years ago with all the KYC and AML rules, basically. Bitcoin in general and like crypto coins in general becoming more and more of a close to money, basically, and to the normal banking system. And in the banking system, you need to prove where your funds are coming from, basically. So when you do a big purchase and you send big amounts to another bank account, you need to prove where this money comes from, basically because of anti-money laundering. And all those rules apply now also with Bitcoin and other coins. And there sometimes it's not as easy as with fiat currencies.
Cool. All right, we have a lot of stuff collected that we want to chat about a bit, and then we're going to go in deep dive into your world to a degree. The first one is that we talked about that last week and also in the newsletter that last week we had a problem that Axios was hacked, and that was basically, that's an NPM package that almost everybody uses for doing HTTP requests or using any connectivity things. And it was basically there's great write-ups on that, and we're gonna do an overspill on that one on the magazine soon. where they now announced the post-mortem, what happened and how it actually got. And it was pretty incredible. It was just like, it was a very sophisticated attack on that person with social engineering and making a fake LinkedIn account of a company that didn't exist. And it was just very impressive to see how they took that over. And it's, as an NPM maintainer or a maintainer of a package, I think you have to be really on your toes that these things don't happen to you. So,
I mean, Chris, just on that, I think something that, you know, with the social engineering part, it was 2 weeks before they did the attack. And I mean, I don't know enough about security to know kind of how long these things take, right, in terms of the social engineering part. But it was the fact that they had, you know, it felt to me like initially when I saw that, I thought, okay, there was a phishing attack, something quite basic that was just what allowed them, you know, to get the way in. But it seems like it was for 2 weeks they were sort of focusing on this person and you know, trying to find their way in, and that's really scary that you're kind of being watched like that. Christian, what were your thoughts on it when you saw it? Did it scare you? Did it make you kind of wary about how we're kind of jumping on these tools with packages, with vibe coding, things like this? You know, just
yeah, of course. Like social supply chain attacks are a really, really big problem, and I mean, we have some parts in the company of software we are building, which is very delicate, basically, to that, because we do custody of our customer funds. And there we are really, really like crazy on security side. We try to have the least amount of packages to reduce the supply chain attack surface actually for that part. But of course, for normal software development, that's not really possible because otherwise you would need to rebuild everything on your own. And yeah, with all those AI coding agents now coming up, integrating new libraries randomly, basically, it's more and more of a problem in the end. And yeah, the social engineering, I mean, 2 weeks is not a long time when you think about that you can actually attack a library which is used by millions of software tools, because in the end, you get a big amount of money made, basically. So you can also spend months on that.
Yeah. The Microsoft security people always said, like, it's on average, it's 3 months until companies realize they've been hacked. Like, I mean, that's normally the thing to do. Like, you either have two attacks. You have an attack where you immediately take the thing over and basically try to grab as much as you can and run away. And that's one type of attack. But the other attack is basically the subtle knife. You just basically go in and poison the thing more and more and actually feed information just to a third party, not continuously, but from time to time. It's a bit like when you have like brute force attacks that don't have timeouts in between, and it's very easy to stop the ones that just completely hammer you. But it's much harder to find the ones that try every 3 hours, 5 hours, 2 hours to do something different. So there are slow and fast attacks, but it's interesting to see that it took like only 2 weeks to get that thing started. I mean, what's fascinating me to this as well is that Axios is used so much because, I mean, there is fetch built in JavaScript. You know, like we have an HTTP library, so to say, in the language itself, and we still use like a third-party thing, like much like we use curl in other languages to do that kind of stuff. So the dependency on that one is an interesting one because it's a very, very good piece of software. So that's why people use it so much. But as you said, the reliance on packages just because they are there is something that might be interesting to think about right now that all these supply chain attacks are on the rise. Other thing, of course, was Anthropic was in the news because of the Cloud Code basically leaking. And on the last show, we had this course where you can actually take a deep dive on the thing. Now they're trying to actually find all the repos that copied their code and shut them down. So there's like playing whack-a-mole on that one on GitHub at the moment. A few rewrote them to other languages. So basically that way Anthropic can't do anything about it. So it will be interesting to see what comes out of that one. And of course, there were a few cases where Cloud Code, source code was actually advertised, but it was actually malware. So that is actually another big thing that I always see, like, here's a hacking tool, and then it's actually malware that people install. And and the other thing is that Anthropic they found a critical vulnerability in the Cloud Code after the source code leak. That's normal. Like, I mean, that's why open source is better, because you always have the code live. Like these things will be found much faster rather than just with a leak. And then the last thing is that now OpenClaw and other third-party API agents are not part of the Claude subscription right now. And Christian, you just basically turned your whole company into a Claude company kind of thing for using it. So do you see this as a huge detriment right now? Did you think it was much cheaper to actually do it through a third party like OpenClaw? Or did you see that coming?
I saw that coming, and I actually read on Twitter a lot of this rage. And honestly, I don't really understand it, because everybody knew that it was subsidized by VC money, and it cannot go on forever. So I fully understand Anthropic why they started to charge now, basically. And yeah, we as an enterprise, we have an enterprise license from Anthropic, so we always had to pay per token. And in the end, you just need to think about how to use your tools and how to make the most outcome out of your tokens you burn. And actually, this is also a big topic for us in the company. Like in the beginning, we said, hey, we have a budget on Anthropic on Claude tokens, basically, for all the developers, but feel free to use as much as you want, basically, because it's an experimentation phase and people need to learn it. But now, the more and more people use it, we start to be more strict about budget, because in the end, we have people who burn like $700 or $1,000 per day on tokens, and then others who spend $20 per day. And now, as a company, we really need to see what's the value which is created out of this. But yeah, we don't use OpenClaw, we use Claude Code.
See, that's where... Chris, I was just thinking then, sorry, on that when you say we don't use OpenClaw, we use Claude Code, that was what confused me about this, is that they've sort of brought OpenClaw in, you know, with Daniel Steinberger, I think it was Steinberg, you know, bring him in as kind of bringing in the personnel. And I know that it seemed like they were going to bring in the kind of technology, if you like, and that was the idea, that integrating in OpenClaw into kind of Claude Code. And I thought that was going to be what Claude Code became, you know, and I can't really see what the differences are a little bit in that. Claude Code now has got its whole thing is trying to get you to use the plugins and the third-party kind of connections, and to me that was the purpose of OpenClaw, that it's the kind of agentic, you know, kind of access to your computer, etc. So it's almost like they're cutting off or making pay-as-you-go access to OpenClaw. Is that in order to bring people into their kind of, you know, internal connection kind of Claude Code? You know, it's like they're competing products that do the same thing. It's like I can't quite get to the bottom of it.
No, I don't think so, because I think that it's really just because of expenses in the end, because OpenClaw or Peter Steinberger is now with OpenAI. It's the competitor to Anthropic.
Oh, excuse me. Yeah, that's my confusion.
Yeah.
I
think you mixed that up.
Makes sense now. That makes perfect sense. Yeah. Because I did reading it, I was going, hang on, they've got two products doing the same thing here. Now we make sense. Yeah.
And actually, I mean, the big advantage from OpenClaw versus Claude Code, in my opinion, is that you don't need to sit in front of the computer, but you can hook it up to Telegram or WhatsApp, for example, and you can prompt it or give it instructions on the go while your computer at home is running Claude Code, for example. But actually, Claude Code also now introduced a new feature. I think it's called remote access.
Dispatch as well is the other one, isn't it? You can
basically where you can also orchestrate your Claude Code instance from your local machine through your phone, basically through the app. So it's basically the same thing. And I think even Perplexity also has a similar thing now. So it's in my opinion, OpenClaw is not really rocket science. And OpenAI, what they did, they bought Peter Steinberger the name and the talent in the end, but not the software technology.
It's the same with Notebook acquisition by Meta, that basically they wanted the two people to work there and work on their agentic frameworks kind of thing. One thing I haven't gotten in there when you said like about tokens and pricing, there seems to be like a dashboard inside Meta who uses the most tokens. And I don't understand this measurement. Like, it's like, okay, it's, I mean, of course, I guess the OpenAI said, the guy said that as well, like if the engineers don't use 80% of their tokens each day, then they're not proper engineering. And I'm like, yeah, but basically because you pay for them. Like, I don't understand how like using tokens is a measurement of how much of a good developer for the company you are.
Yeah.
It feels like we're counting lines of code again, which makes no sense.
It's funny because this is such a big topic for us for 2 months now, I think, in the company with our DevX team and my AI team, because that's really the hard question. Like, how do you measure the token spent versus the value which is created in the end? And we also said in the beginning, and we even say that now, like the easiest thing is to just track or monitor token spent in the end. And it's easy to set up a dashboard. We have one in Datadog linked to all the people, because actually the first challenge we had in the company was the adoption. It's easy to give licenses to 250 engineers, but to make a big speech in the all hands, and then you think people will naturally go with it immediately because it's such a great tool. But it's not actually. If we figured out that like after 1 or 2 weeks, I think, I don't know, only maybe 30 or 40% of our developers used Cloud Code actively on a daily basis, basically. And we figured it out by just looking at the token they spent. Some spent $200, others spent $0. And then, of course, it's again people management and change management to figure out like why don't these people don't use Cloud Code so far. And yeah, most of the time it was just like, hey, I don't have time right now. I need to finish my sprint. I need to finish this feature. My engineering manager is on my neck. While it's naturally, I mean, you need to spend maybe 1 or 2 days out of your working day basically to play with it. And then you will see like, oh, wait a minute. Like you need to have this first moment where you see like, wow, now this really saves me some time and a lot of time. And then it naturally, the people jump on it. And at the beginning, it was actually pretty hard change process, I would say. And now it's naturally because like you see all your surrounding peers using Cloud Code, committing much more code in the end. So you don't want to fall behind. But yeah, then in the end, after the token monitoring, what else do you monitor? Because you cannot monitor the lines of code. You cannot monitor the amount of merge requests because also, yeah, you can do 100 merge requests per day now, but how much value do they create? And yeah, this is something we haven't figured out yet, I would say.
That's the hard sell, isn't it? I mean, as an engineer who's been in the company for quite a while and actually knows their job, like they know, okay, we got the feature list, we want to build these features, and like, oh, with Cloud Code, you could build 50 features today. And you're like, yeah, but that actually is not part of the sprint. That's not part of the agile methodology that we're doing. Like this hyper acceleration of code generation is like this dream that all these companies are selling. But I found that like in a professional environment, you actually don't want to just create code for the sake of creating code and add features for the sake of creating features, because you have to have a rollout in terms of auditing, in terms of security audits, in terms of legal audits as well, where you cannot just basically go wild. I mean, the whole thing about let's white code Bitpanda 2.0 tomorrow in 3 days with 4 engineers and 20 agents. What for? That's the question then.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is like, actually, this is one of the first times where I'm really, really happy that we are in a regulated environment, because you can rebuild Bitpanda, but you don't have the licenses, you don't have the banking connections, you don't have the payment connections. Like everything which is there, which is non-tech, which took us years to build up, and also the trust factor in the end, basically. We have a track record of 11 years not losing customer funds and being a very secure platform. So it's not only about software here, but everything around that as well. And about vibe coding, I mean, we also see in our software development lifecycle, writing code was usually not the biggest problem, I would say. Okay, I mean now you can do what you did in 2 days, maybe in 2 hours. But actually, where we're losing time is the deployment phase, basically. When you ship to staging, testing, and then at some point we need to take the decision to put it to production. And that usually takes a few days in our company, because we have a service management, we have a long process basically of approvers in the end, because in this regulated environment, everything needs to be documented, 4I principle, lots of approvers. And this is where Cloud Code cannot help us for now. I mean, over the long term, of course, we will also optimize all these processes with AI to make it faster in the end. But yeah, still there's a human required, at least for compliance reasons already.
I mean, this is where agents come in. This is basically, if that's a process that has to be done the same every single time, that's an opportunity to do it, but you need human guidance and human supervision. That's the biggest problem there, because I mean, it's like when people use the same model to write the code and do the code review, then they shouldn't be surprised that it always says like, this code is good, you know, or
Yeah,
like
of course, yeah.
there were other things as well, like where somebody built something with Gwen, I think, and then basically asked the same model what that code does, and it says like, this code is not good enough, and started deleting it again. So they burned through like $400 of tokens in one day for a massive app, and then deleted itself again. And it feels like printing money to a degree in terms of tokens. So that was interesting.
But this is actually also a real problem, like merge requests. The amount of merge requests which are coming in now to our, I don't know, principal engineers or the lead engineers who need to approve that is big. And in the end, this just shows the next bottleneck.
I mean, this is even, you're lucky because you're an open source project. I mean, every open source maintainer is drowning in pull requests that are AI generated and slop requests as well. So they even, Microsoft and a few others, Google and others also now started a foundation to actually fund open source projects to get like the right amount of computation to work against that issue. But it's too easy to make a pull request, especially also one with malicious code in there. Like, I mean, people who just started vibe pushing into open source, no, you don't submit 10,000 lines of code. You never ever do that. You don't put that on the maintainer of the open source project. But it's if it's all agentically coded, you don't even know how much code is going on there. There's another post that I don't think I made part of this, and that was a very interesting saying. It said like, your ticket is actually a prompt. So nowadays, most tickets that you send into a software company is actually going through an AI phase where it actually is a prompt asking LLM to go through the FAQ and give you the right answer. So like the whole idea of filing tickets is that you get to talk to a person to get that thing fixed. But now we automated that so much away that you could actually, to get a ticket faster through, you have to talk in a language that computers understand better than humans.
Funny.
So talking about like trust and everything, it was quite interesting to see that Microsoft in the terms and conditions of Microsoft Copilot, it basically says use Copilot at your own risk, and actually it's for entertainment purposes only. And I found that like, wow. And
it reminded me
turns
of
out, yeah.
So I was just thinking, it reminded me of those medication adverts, you know, the kind of adverts that you see for pharmaceuticals, where it's like telling you everything that's great about it, and then at the end it like speeds up, you know, may cause this. Yeah.
Wow. And then like, yeah, he found that Microsoft now has 7 different products called Copilot. I mean, when I was at Microsoft, GitHub Copilot just came out, and I was super excited about it. And then the GitHub 365 came out, and the Copilot 365 came out. And all of a sudden, there was a Copilot in Edge, which was the product I worked on. And like, why is everything a Copilot? We don't need that many Copilots. There's 2 in every plane, not more. But I guess if a name is so obviously good, then they basically just keep using it. But yeah, it doesn't help with like picking it.
Are those copilots all based on the same models?
No, not even. No. It's just the technicality of a copilot aiding you to get to a task, I guess, is why they use that name for everything. Oh, I don't know. Microsoft is such a big company; they actually have different marketing things in between. You never know what's going on there.
The word, though, they kind of marked the word Copilot, not just by branding it in these things, because there was a period of time where people were trying to find what to call these things, like chatbots and copilots and code assistants. And there was a period where Copilot was talked about, and then I think because it's Microsoft, you just don't, do you? Because it's like you're talking specifically about them then, so they cornered it in a way.
Yeah, another thing that was related to Microsoft as well, that LinkedIn turns out, and I saw that on like a few hacking mailing lists, and I'm like, yeah, okay, you're paranoid about a big company again. But it turns out apparently LinkedIn tracks browser extensions on users' PCs to actually fingerprint them and find out what you're actually using. And I don't understand this. Like, why would you want to do this? Like, this is so obviously to be caught out doing that. And it basically is a JavaScript that read through the extensions that were installed in the browser. I didn't even know that it was a sandbox outside. But it shows once again to me that extensions are pure evil. I mean, the extensions are what made Visual Studio big. Visual Studio Code big. It made what browsers great as well. Like, having worked on 3 different browsers, I basically always loved that people can write extensions to come up with functionality that we can put in the core. But they also the biggest access point for malware, the biggest access point for performance issues, the biggest access point for false positives when it comes to like your browser sucks. It's most of the time that somebody had like 5 different ad blockers running at the same time and wonders why the machine is slow. But that LinkedIn did that, and there's still the code is still out on that, so we're not quite sure yet if it's really or if it was something else. But it feels really bizarre to read people's browser extensions, and it's only on Chromium. So on Safari, on Firefox, it doesn't do it. So it seems like in those you can't do that at the moment. And
we just lost
that's
Chris
gone.
While Chris comes back, Chris, I did notice in one of those articles there is a sort of explanation for it, and it's probably as cynical as you'd imagine. They were suggesting that it's a way for them to collect data around the kinds of employers and then the internal tools that they're using, or the kind of organizational tools, to see then if there's a way, perhaps, I don't know if it's like not an upsell, or like a way to then go and approach that company and try and sell them a Microsoft enterprise product instead. I thought it was interesting because it's probably something that we've all agreed to when we signed up to the terms and conditions. We just didn't take the time to read. So, it's scary, but I kind of understand it as well. And we've got Christian.
Yeah. Sorry, it seems like I had some internet connection issues. I'm in the south part of Austria for a few days now because I'm coming from a farm, actually. My parents have a farm here. And I have actually Starlink because there is no internet connection, but usually Starlink is very reliable. And Chris, because of your story about you've been at the doctor's appointment 10 minutes earlier, I was at the tractor seeding corn a few hours ago.
Oh, wow.
Nice. Also, it's a proper farm, not a Bitcoin farm. Okay.
No, it's a proper farm, with corn. And with looking at all these security-related topics and all these flaws in software, I think like working on a farm is actually pretty nice.
Yeah, learn to farm.
Yeah, it works. I want you on the other screen. Go over there. Good. Cool. Okay, that's really not what I wanted to have here now. So how many screens do I have open in my Visual Studio Code? How many different projects am I working at the same time? Yeah, but the other thing is what was interesting was this research as well, that basically ad trackers are 10% of the global internet traffic. And that's just pretty bonkers. I mean, these are just the trackers that say if ads can be displayed or not. This is not the ad traffic. And that basically shows, like, by running an ad blocker or running a blocker that is built into the browser, you can save so much traffic on the internet that is not actually anything good for you. But it's fascinating to see that this is actually that much, and where they actually are more frequent and in other countries. I mean, interestingly enough, in the middle of Europe, like, ad trackers are not that much because, yeah, we have all these regulations against them. But yeah, it's fascinating to see that the ad guard data. And you sent that to me.
Oh yes, I did. Sorry, I'll pick up on this one. So this was saying about UK users and kind of how they're less active because of the rise of video apps. And it's this kind of wider discussion where they're saying about potentially the use of social media in the UK has dropped. And that my first thought with this was, well, the data's quite flawed anyway, because I mean, I haven't looked in loads into the kind of way that they got this, but it has come from the regulator. So you would think it would be quite kind of reliable. But it's probably, to me, also to do with the fact that now VPN use has shot up. So even if they were to ask people and do surveys, you might say, yes, I use social media less. But then the numbers would show people using social media less or using the internet in general less from the UK. But my point is that's probably not the case. It's just there's a lot more VPN use. But at the same time, I think we all see algorithms, and there's a lot of kind of negative content around the UK that's actually not, it's not accurate. It's clearly being pushed by bot farms and things like this. But I do see people in the UK sometimes saying, oh, it makes me scared of going to London. And Chris, you lived there. It's kind of a good sort of example of how social media is not reality. And this is a reminder.
Same with Berlin. I mean, we keep like saying, "Oh, there's one park that I slept in the summer." You know, like that's basically like it's unsafe. What I found interesting in this paper or in this article as well was that it said like that people are worried about what they say on social media being recorded and being taken against them if they want to travel into other countries and things like that. And you're like, that's gorgeous, but like, I mean, you're like 5 years too late then, right? I mean, like if you say like from now on, I'm not going to say horrible things on social media, it's not going to be the remedy that you think it is. Like this has all been recorded and analyzed and taken out of context already. So the baby's out with the bathwater a long time ago, I think.
Yeah, but you are seeing more people think a bit like the you guys do in Germany and in Austria, where there's more conversation around privacy and, you know, kind of controlling your own data and things like that. The UK's catching. That's what I would say. There's a cultural shift. People are thinking about it now, and it's good to see that we're thinking a bit more like you guys do.
Now, in terms of cool tech stuff, Netflix released a model called Void, and I found that actually really, really interesting because what it does, it's actually taking imagery and videos, and you can take people out of it. But that has been done before. But what hasn't been done before is that if you take the people out, it also changes the physics of the rest of the components around it. And that's pretty bonkers. That's pretty incredible when you think about it. Like you have this weight dropping on things, and if the video is not there anymore, then basically you take the ones out and the other one will not fall over. And that's all one video model. And it's pretty incredible that they open source that as well, or like open weighted, like whatever. But it's interesting that that Netflix comes up with something like that, which makes you wonder like how much of that is already in the newest Netflix productions.
Very
it's kind of scary. Yeah.
And I
it's
mean,
impressive.
we were excited to change background images on video on like static images, but this is a totally different level. Like the interaction between the different parts of the video is just pretty incredible because they are not models. They are not objects. They're just part of the video stream. I don't even know how to do that.
Yeah, so the model needs to know about physics and the world, like how it behaves, or
yeah.
Did you not think that was the one thing we couldn't do as well? That, you know, when we watch a film, if the physics are wrong, you just know as a human. It's why all the AI videos, you know, when you watch them, even when they're really good, you go, and there's something on like a very kind of low level that you just know it isn't right. And this is really exciting that it's kind of a way of fixing the physics, but also, I don't know, it's more of the removing the human and doing it with technology. It's a bit, I don't know, it doesn't sit well, you know.
I think the Fast and Furious movies did more to not believe in physics anymore than any model would have done. But like, yeah,
true.
So that's pretty bonkers. There's also Artemis Live. Artemis 2 is of course happening. So this is a massively detailed tracker about what's going on with the mission to the moon, and I love that these details are in there. And that always, I love that with NASA anyways, that these things were always completely available for you as data sets, which also is interesting. There is imagery now released, new photos of Earth, and it's just gorgeous to see all this data coming out. And Artemis, they have a little cat as their mascot. And in Houston, where they're actually in the control center, when the people on the Artemis themselves are asleep, they put like a little mask on the cat as well.
Oh,
I love that little detail.
Yeah, love it.
yes.
But seeing that there's live data, there's also the PISS tracker. Dan, why don't you tell us about that a bit?
It tracks the level of the I don't want to get us demonetized. The tank that contains the things that I don't know how to say this, Chris. The piss tank. So yes, it tracks the percentage that it's full at all times on the ISS. And what this does, we've said it before. We love developers because they make things like this, but it just makes you say why, but at the same time say, but I'm glad somebody did. I'm so confused about how I feel about this.
Especially that somebody made an app for the Mac as well, that you can have it as part of your dock all the time. That actually shows you the percentage there as well.
Streaming.
So that means that NASA is publishing an API endpoint with this metric, or like?
Yeah, it's a streaming API. Yeah, it's.
What is this world?
Yeah. Few tips and tricks. It turns out that if you actually there's a plugin called Caveman for Claude Code Skill plugin and Codex that actually makes the token requests easier and token simpler, so you can actually save on tokens without losing the fidelity of the original prompt. So I found that really fun as well. Like basically make it simpler and then use less tokens that way, and it automatically does that for you. It's pretty nice. That's something to roll out to your 200 engineers right now. There's also token efficient, which is kind of similar. You drop it in your project, and it actually it takes all the unnecessary tokens returned out, like all the sycophantic things, like, oh, that's such a great question. You're like, yeah, I don't want to hear that. I know it was a great question because I asked it. So it filters that one stuff out. So it's basically, it's a rule in chats, and it's a Claude MD file that actually simplifies the requests that come back, and that makes it faster and actually more efficient as well. Apify released their agent skills. So basically, if you need different skills with an ultimate scraper, for example, to scrape things from a website, they showed how to use that one as well. And I'm getting really excited about that one. There's an advanced search for YouTube that allows you to exact terms, a date before, and specific length, rather than having to go through like all the different playlist added things that you don't want to have. So that's another quiet tool. If you want to do YouTube search like a professional, that's a really cool, interesting tool to use. And that's it from tips and tricks and stuff. And now, before we go into the guest topic, which we kind of did already, so it's great that you already were there talking about what you do internally. We have a thing called Fake or News, where we actually, I show you headlines, and you have to tell me if they're real or not real. And you got like 30 seconds to tell me. And so let's do that and let's play Fake or News. All right, let's get started. Researchers unearthed 30-year-old vulnerability in libpng library.
News? No.
Yeah. Oh, you're doubting yourself.
Is libpng 30 years old already?
I know, that's what I'm wondering. Yeah, we're going to go with first answer. News.
It's news. Rust compiler optimization bug causes integer overflow in safety critical systems.
Optimization bug. I feel like that could be real, but what's an integer overflow in the safety script? Oh, go for it, Christian. What do you think? I'm going with you on this.
Fake, maybe?
Fake. I think fake.
It's fake. I thought I put clever words in there and see if I can make something out of it. Scientists print human liver tissue in breakthrough that could save lives.
Print?
That's news, I would say.
Does feel real.
There are already companies who can also build brain cells.
And it's news, yeah. If George Best had that right. An AI agent was banned from creating Wikipedia articles, then wrote angry blogs about being banned.
It sounds so real.
Yeah, I would also say news.
Oh,
it is real.
Isn't it ridiculous?
Memory corruption bug in libbc malloc leads to heap exploitation techniques.
Don't even know what I've just read, so I'm going to say that's real.
Also, again, a lot of words. Yeah, maybe it's real, yeah.
Oh, Chris.
Passengers stranded in moving traffic after robot taxi outage in China's Wuhan.
Yeah, definitely real. Definitely.
That's very possible, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's in Wuhan. That's just like, oh God, no, not again, that kind of thing. Copilot just launched a to-do list that completes itself, finally giving all us professional procrastinators the productivity upgrade we absolutely did not earn, but would gladly take.
I'd like it to be real. It can't be real. Surely not.
One out of these 80 co-pilots, you mean? Maybe fake.
Fake.
It's news. It really did. Apple's private cloud compute faces scrutiny after independent audit finds encryption metadata vulnerabilities.
Yeah, I'm going to say it does feel real. Independent audit, though, how would they get in? Would they let them do that?
Yeah, independent audit, for sure.
It's fake. Inside the stealthy startup that pitched brainless human clones.
Terrifying. Yeah, true.
We need to get this right now. How many things were fake and news?
We'll put the score on the screen. Yeah, we'll make sure we win. You've done well.
I would say fake.
It's news. And it's terrifying. That's one of the most terrifying papers I've ever read. It's like they're brainless monkeys that actually have your DNA in it. It's like proper Frankensteinian stuff. Like, it's amazing.
No.
OpenAI introduces low latency mode for API users to mitigate high infrastructure costs.
The low latency mode, though, but surely that wouldn't.
Never heard about that.
No.
Why should mitigate high infrastructure costs? Let's say fake again.
It's fake. They would shoot themselves in the foot with that, right? Like, I mean,
yeah.
Yeah. So those were the right ones, and those were the wrong ones. Like the libpng was obvious. Like that was a correct one, and the other ones I made up. So that was fake on news. You can always play it on the side as well. Just it's available, and you have all the past editions from the last 4 as well. We have to start analyzing the videos. Which of our guests said yes or right, and actually make a
scoreboard.
Yeah, we have to think about that one as well. Cool. All right, so that was fake on news. All right, so let's talk back about some of the things that you wanted to talk about. But I mean, we don't have to go into that one. I just found a few things that I found interesting. That Drift, there was a $220 million exploit with North Korean intelligence operation. And have you heard of that, Christian, or did you?
No, yeah, of course I heard about that. And yeah, that was a very sophisticated social engineering attack in the end, because as far as I know, they had a multi-sig setup in their custody, but somehow they got all the signatures to sign a transaction, basically. But yeah, that just shows the flaws, basically. In the end, it's humans and humans which approve the transactions. And even if you have multi-sig, you can get socially engineered, basically. The problem there, I would say, is basically that they had the multi-sig available on a normal computer, it seems, basically, or on an everyday device which the people used, basically, to sign transactions. So that's really bad, yeah. But this is like, I'm a huge Bitcoin enthusiast, I would say. And every time when something like this happens, I always say Bitcoin use is not affected, especially if you have your own private key and your own wallet. Because the problem in general with Web3 and DeFi and everything related to that is that it gets more and more complex. It's capable of doing much, much more. But in the end, you as a human, sometimes you don't have the possibility anymore to understand what you're actually signing. And I think there was also blind signing involved. So the person who signed the transaction was not even able to read what they're signing. And that's usually a big problem. And
it's just a matter of like the numbers always fascinate me. Like it seems to be like really good business to do some crypto scam, because it's like it always goes into the millions, no matter what it is. Or maybe they're just the ones that make the headlines. But
but this was not a scam. It was a hack, or so. The creators of Drift didn't want to scam the people. But yeah, the numbers are big, basically, because in the end, you need to think about that this is capital which gets deployed from around the world. That's one of the big advantages with blockchains and Web3 stuff in the end, that you can build something and people can participate around the world, and it's easy for everyone because within 1 second you can create a wallet and buy one of those tokens or send some money to this platform or to this chain, basically. That's why it's always much more allocated than when you would, I don't know, do fundraising in Europe, for example.
Cool. All right, so let's give you the stage. You said you had a few things cooking in Bitpanda that might be interesting for our audience to look at. So what do you have for us?
Yes, happy to do so. I mean, we talked about upfront already about that, but I was the CTO for almost 9 years in the company, and like 2 years ago, I gave away my management position because, like, I like to build and I like to work with software and computers, and it's maybe too harsh to say I don't like to work with people, but it's not where my strength is, I would say. So that's why I gave away the management position. And in the end, it's about creating value in the company. So somebody who loves to manage people can build much more, can create much more shareholder value. So yeah, 2 years ago, I tried to search for another position in the company, and I gave myself the title Chief Scientist because that's when all this OpenAI hype started to build up, basically. And we said, like, what can I do in the company, basically, to create shareholder value, because I'm also a shareholder. I was starting with a small team with 2 people. In the end, we have now a small AI team. We're now 4 people. And we tried to optimize everything in Bitpanda in the company, basically, to optimize workflows for our employees. We also deployed OpenAI and different LLM assistants, Cloud Code, everything in this regards as well. And we also started with an idea to build Bitpanda Labs, and it's basically just, we've stolen it from Google, I would say, with Google Labs. And the idea is basically that we want to build some features or some things which can be nice for our customers or for our employees in an environment beside our production environment, basically. So where we can build much faster and deploy and get feedback from our customers. And as soon as we have this feedback from our customers, then we can decide if we really want to build this product, basically. And that's what Bitpanda Labs is for, basically. And I'm inviting everybody to have a look at Bitpanda Labs. It's on labs.bitpanda.com. And we try to build in public, basically. So everything what we build, we also describe in a blog article. We just want to motivate other people, basically, whatever you can do with AI, but also to showcase a little bit what we do in the company and how we use AI. And one funny project actually was this bistro queue, for example. We have free lunch in the company for everybody in our offices, and Vienna is our main hub, and we have our own catering there, basically. But during lunchtime, there's a big queue. And me thinking about how much money we waste here on employee salary while they're waiting, I thought let's vibe code a system with a webcam, basically, to track the queue size and then to publish this information in the company Slack, that people know when to go down to the bistro or not. And we published that one here as well. We coded it in one night. We have a monitor now, and people can have an educated decision, basically, when to go down to the bistro to grab some lunch. And it was actually a really nice experience because that was in the beginning of Cloud Code. We fully vibe coded it, not a single line of code. And that was actually also the start in the company that we said, like, we really need to hand out this tool to everybody in the end. We also have other experiments. I mean, lately we also deployed a Bitpanda CLI, which is that one. And as you know, MCP is not the favorite animal anymore for agents. It's more about CLI now. That's why we also switched to a CLI project. And everybody can download the CLI and hook it up to their agent basically, and then you can have a look at your Bitpanda portfolio from the agent as well, basically. And yeah, maybe just important information. We have 2 GitHub repository. One is the Bitpanda Labs, and the majority of the stuff we publish there, basically, because that's the oldest organization we have, because we had the problem that somebody hijacked our name and used Bitpanda, which was not from the company. And it took us a pretty long time until we got back this organization name. So we have it now, but there's just one README with information about it.
Are you open to outside contributions as well, or are there outside contributions coming in already, or is it more about like getting feedback through GitHub?
No, it's more about getting feedback from our customers. And yeah, we actually also want to enable our product management team basically to play around and yeah, play with some ideas to publish them in the end to our customers, because our roadmap is filled with a lot of stuff. And as a commercial company, we always ask ourselves, like, how much revenue will we create with that feature? That's the reality. And with some of the nice features or nice to have features, usually it's not really easy to put a mark on it, how much revenue this thing will create. And that's why it's much harder for us to prioritize these topics. And that's why we're using labs for in the end.
So the CLI, you said, like, gives you insight, you can read your portfolio. Can you do transactions with it as well? Or is it basically just a read?
Not yet. Now it's only read-only so far, because also our API is read-only. That's also something we need to prioritize, because I mean, there are different philosophies around it, but I also believe that in the end, in the future, the front ends of products will become less and less important in the end, because when everybody runs their own agent, I don't need to see the Bitpanda front end anymore to look at my portfolio or to execute a trade. I can just tell my agent to look at my portfolio and buy some Bitcoin. And that's why we really need to have a first-class API in the end and CLI implementation. And this is where I'm pushing towards, basically, that we are also prepared for this future. But yeah, everything
it's fun that everybody sells this as the future, and then I just say RSS feeds and JSON-P. You know, we had these things before. Like we basically a lot of stuff that happens with AIs right now. We use the front end and scrape it and get information from it. But we had embedded metadata and embedded data in HTML and even in HTTP headers forever. We just didn't use it. Instead, we used to React to build a conglomerate of diffs that basically didn't make any sense, instead of structuring our content the right way. So the amount of people that were saying, like, we're now going to have an API, and you're like, yeah, we had that at the beginning of Web 2.0. Like in 2006, we always said, like, always build your stuff with an API first. But then we kind of lost the track, and we packaged it up into an app. And then we put it into iOS, and then we put it up into Android, and now we're going back on the web, and now we're saying, like, well, our agents needs an API, so where's that coming from? We're running in circles, it seems, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's actually right. Yeah, but I mean, one thing which I don't buy actually is that people also advocate that everybody will have their own front end for different products or for different companies. That's something I don't see actually, because for me, it's actually convenient if I know I will open this app and there were, I don't know, 100 people involved in designing this app, thinking about the best position of the button, thinking about the best way to show the portfolio, for example, in our company. So I don't want to tell my agent, like, how I want to see it. I want to use this product, the front end, basically, because I know that's maybe the best presentation of this information in the end. So front ends still have an important use case for me, but of course, if you want to tell the agent, they have a much easier life to use API instead of scraping a front end in the future.
Well, especially that's always the story that people say, like people can use vibe coding or no coding to actually build their front end for their different tools. But then I look at my phone and I see how many apps I have and I can't find anything any longer. Like the whole idea of having a little app for everything with an icon doesn't scale to a certain size. You keep using the search on your phone to search your apps as well. And then like you might as well just skip that whole part and say like tell the agent to do something and have that as a command rather than having it as a UI, as you say. The whole idea of saying like we empower people with AI to build their own front ends for every task. I think they will, but then they will discard it in half a year and not look at it ever again. Much like we said, like every personal agent, every Siri, every Cortana will have their own apps inside it, and even WhatsApp doesn't have apps that people use. Like that whole model doesn't scale, and it's interesting to see how we go away completely from the interface and say like, okay. And I love what you said, like, let's have the interface, the main bitpanda.com, done by experts for people that want to use an interface. And everybody else will just have an agent that integrates it into the workflow that they do anyways.
Yeah, that's right. For example, I buy Bitcoin every day. It's for me 10 seconds. I open the app, I know exactly where the buy button is. I click it, done, close the app again. While I don't want to tell the agent, hey, please now buy Bitcoin for me, and then I need to read the answer. And when I'm in a public space, I also don't want to talk with my agent, and because everybody around me can hear this information in the end. Right? So,
well, especially you don't want other people to go for it. Like, hey, Christian's phone, buy things for me. Like, So the other thing you said is that you're rolling out Cloud Code for the whole company, and it's 200 engineers. And it would be interesting to get more insights into that, because I think there is, I said, you talked about it earlier a bit, there is an initial pushback, and the tracking of how people use it, you use it with like token. How do you do the training bit on it? Like when you find somebody not using it and you said like you ask them why, do you find that there is still a training need for people to get into it? Because I always found that taking one engineer from one IDE to another is just basically horrible for them. So you have to find a really good argument to make it happen.
Yes, and I've seen now, like in real life experience, that arguments that don't work most of the time. They really need to see it firsthand, and then they need to see themselves like this this one event where they see that, oh, now this really works crazy. Because I mean, we also had some developers who said like, yeah, but this whole vibe coding thing and this cloud code thing doesn't work, because I was reading an article which was 3 months old, and it said like, no, it doesn't work. And in the end, this is not the reality anymore, because 3 months ago it was a different environment and there were different models, and they, of course, sometimes they don't want to spend the time to actually try it, because when you read an article you're much faster, but in this it's fast-paced world in the end. And what we do actually is we try to advocate, and we try to have some multipliers in the company, because we see that some developers, they naturally adopt it and they really love to use Cloud Code and not write any single line of code anymore in the end. And those are the natural multipliers, basically. When you have one person in the team who is doing that, hopefully they will also talk with the other guys, basically, and then everybody will jump on it. So that's one thing. And what we also did is we physically went to some of the developers. We looked at the people who spent $0 on tokens in the last 2 weeks. We physically went to the desk and said like, let's sit down for 1 or 2 hours. I will have a look on how you work, like on your tickets, and we can try together to use Cloud Code for that in the end, basically. And in the beginning, it was always like, yeah, please don't annoy me. I don't have time for that. I need to finish this today. And then after 1 hour, it was like, yeah, but I told it, and it again does the wrong thing. But after then 2 hours, there's this one event where it shows like, fuck, that really can help me, basically. And then it's a no-brainer, and then it starts to flow, basically, in the end. But that's really a big change process in the end. And we also need to think about if we actually need to change the organization in total, the whole engineering department. Because now we have teams with front-end, back-end developers, QA testers, engineering manager, product managers. And out of like maybe 7 to 12 people in a team. And maybe we don't need a separate iOS and Android developer, front-end developer anymore, because one front-end developer is maybe enough for that. And those are all the discussions in the company. And of course, it's naturally a very big change process. And the funny thing is actually, I gave away the CTO position because it was just management and people management. And now in this AI team, I'm back again at people management, because you think about like, give everybody the license, give everybody the playbook on how to use Cloud Code. But in the end, it's people and like it's humans' feelings and thinking, and it takes weeks or months to change an organization like this. For a small startup with like 4 or 5 people, it's much easier. But for us, it's a big task. Yeah.
Who would have thought that at one time we're going to have to answer to the company why we didn't spend money, like or tokens? You know, like it's a very bizarre thing. You know, normally it's like, oh, so why did you use an open source thing for that? Like, okay, like why did you spend money on this? And they're like, why didn't you spend all your money? Like it's a bit like, why didn't you take all your holidays? Like, but that's the other thing that we keep pushing for. Excellent. So, Christian, are you going to be in Berlin at the Congress in July? Are you going to be part of this one, or is Bitpanda not going to be there?
No, yes, I will be there. I will be in Berlin, yeah, with
Cool.
a talk.
Are you
but I
talking
think
as
that
well?
the topic is not yet decided.
Cool.
Let's see.
Well, we're kind of over time already. So, any last words for your audience? Anything you want people to try out? I mean, WeAreDevelopers has a labs as well, so if you want to look at that one, you can do that too. It's hard to find. I couldn't know that you find the URL right now, but that's something I will write an agent to do that for me.
Yeah, we need to
any last
do some
words?
search engine optimization on that.
Cool. Any last words from you? Anything you want to tell people that they should be doing more? Anything they should be doing less?
I mean, I would say be curious as a developer and don't try to hold back on this or AI coding thing, basically, because it's really a cool thing, and you just need to jump on it and give it a try.
Cool. Anything from you, Dan?
Nice. Yep. I would say, you know, I've been using Claude Code a lot recently, and yes, it's pretty amazing what it can do, but it's also occasionally tripped up on those really simple things like creative kind of tasks. So I would say that's still the place for humans. Go and make something. We say it every week, make something fun and weird and wacky, like the ISS tracker that maybe AI couldn't really make in the same way. The human element's always good. So yeah, that would be my advice.
Yeah, random things, unnecessary things. I just did an MCP server for Commodore 64 code with a friend of mine to actually reverse engineer old games. And so that stuff makes no sense, but it was actually fun to build. And hopefully something like that you will find as well. And I guess, Bitpanda, are you hiring?
We are hiring very specific roles, but yes, we're hiring. It's online.
So if you're a specific person, talk to Chris, and then we see you next time here on the show as well. Thanks very much, Christian Trummer. This was WeAreDevelopers Live for today, and be good to each other, have fun out there. And for the people in Berlin, let's see each other in the pub later. Bye-bye for today.
Thank you. Bye.